I was already tuned down a whole step on my 4-string. So when I went to 5-string, I had to play that tune down too, because I couldn't. I tried to go back up, but I've been playing a few years tuned down. So and so I just stayed that way, and that's all it was. It wasn't no deep science to it, and it felt good to me. And it's weird because none of my basses, when I tune them up standard, they don't sound good to me. Ooh. Like there's a different resonance in the wood when it's tuned down as opposed to tuner. And my ears are just used to it now.
It is. It's a whole different. It's a different tension on the strings, man, and it resonates through the wood different. It really does. It really does.
So you don't have an intonation problem when you tone down that low?
No, not at all.
Reg, you got the drop. Reg, you got the drop thing, right? Little drop key.
Yeah, but I'll go to E flat.
Yeah.
I mean, I go down to C rather on my.
Right.
Go down to C.
My hip shot takes my E down to low C.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all that's the lowest I've ever went.
Right.
Because you got
see, y'all left me. I just grabbed a bass and just throw that boy halfway down, and that was it. I was trying to be like y'all, so
y'all, you
I'm
came
missing all
before me.
Oh, please.
I had a little bit. I had a little bambingo in my day. Gooch, you got me to get that Tobias, that purple heart. No. Let me tell you. I was gifting basses as a way of paying it forward.
Right.
So I have none of my old basses.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And looking back in retrospect, I feel very bad because, Reggie, when you said if you got anything you want to throw from something that you used to play, man, I literally would play it until, my theory, I would play the bass until I just played it out. Something, I would feel like a release to go somewhere else or to try a different sound. But it's really only been 3 basses that I've played.
Wow.
So let's get into that because I actually want to start with you, Steve. Why bass? And how old were you?
I went to grew up in we a church baby, so we always had Kojic. We had, bongos, whole percussion session in the 70s, drums, bass, guitar. It was always a bass player that would come and go. And I remember we had an Ampeg amp, man, that was there, and it was about a year, and I was about 9. I was about eight or 9. Yeah, we're going that far back. But we were all sitting around all of the musicians, and man, my dad took me to a Jewish synagogue, and I was like beating on the drums, and pastor let us mess with the piano here and there, and it was just so many drummers, and my sister played violin but wouldn't play it, and I would take it when my parents left, and I would always break the string, and I would get a whoop, and then she started playing classical guitar, but she would never play it, so I'd take her guitar. While they were going to the mall or going to the grocery store, man, and for some odd reason, I would pull the strings because, the music, plucking and all that stuff was coming out, and I would break the strings, man, get a whooping. And one day I think it clicked with my parents, and they were like, she's not playing it. He's breaking strings. He's trying to play. So there was a Jewish synagogue auction, man, by my crib. Went with my dad. Everybody's senior or white hair, all of that. And man, they raised up a cheap fake Fender Jazz. We starting this off at $50. It's $50. I said, Dad. He said, you want that bass? I was like, yeah, get it, man. He raised his hand. Nobody else bid it on it. It was $50. And got the bass, at the age of 9, that's like, to me, it was as great as any bass you could imagine. It was a good copy bass. And so the next day, it was electric. So the next day he went back and they had an amp and he bought the amp. And that's how it started. I mean, it was just kind of musical. I came up under Carlos Moody, Bishop Moody, Kojic. And so, it was just always instruments and music at church. So bass was there, so then that spot was empty at church where like there wasn't a bass player for like a good year.
But it was 10 drums, right?
I'm sorry?
It was 10 drummers though, right?
It's 60, 65. All sitting around, you know how it go. It was a great atmosphere, man. But like the next day when my dad came home with my uncles, man, they put their pistols on the table. Steven, come over here. Get that bass, plug it up, play something. Play something. I just got it. You just yesterday. Play that damn bass, boy. So I just don't. So that was where it started. And he like, yeah, boy, look, hey, you see, I told you my boy can play, you know, and at that moment, something happened because I was fiddling with the guitars and stuff, man, and that's kind of where it started, and that's when my life changed. My dad died when I was 14.
Wow.
The way I dealt with the pain, that looking back in retrospect over my life, man, I went inside and just went to a straight introvert, man, and I never left the house, and I just played that bass, played it for about 4 or 5 years, and one day I got the courage to bring it to church, and they like, I don't know what you brought that for, because you ain't playing up in here. But the pastor said, put that thing in there and play that bass, and I just played and was messing up, and after about 2 months of diligence, I remember it was like a download from, you know how the Holy Spirit do, you know, wait, in my mind, this note here, I know that note's there, the E for the quarters here, 5, 6, 7, 4, and it just clicked. And I remember the whole church turned, and that was it.
That's amazing, man.
That was when that I guess gift came to fruition, and that's how it started, man. And then I just, you know.
So you was learning how to play bass in church?
In church.
Wow.
I'm talking making me cry, turn the bass off, everybody looking at me like, you know, but the pastor, who was a guitar player, saxophone player, played organ, played keys, Bishop Moody, Carlos Moody, he let me continue to make all of those mistakes. And so, you know, the pressure was on, but I ran to the pressure instead of running away from it, and it paid off, man, because I wanted to please God, you know, the Lord. I knew something was happening, and man, when that thing kicked, when I felt that thing kick in, and it was like a church song we were singing, but I started playing, baby, we can do it. Don't. I turned the song. The mother said, get that boy Peppermint. Boy, come here, boy. You played that bass today. The lady used to give me peppermints every Sunday. I'm telling you, I credit her. Her name was Mother Logan. I put everything on Mother Logan, and them peppermints is what took me over took me into the promised land.
Did you name your bass? Did you name your bass Peppermint?
Nah, that would have been a good idea though.
Yeah, you should.
But yeah, man, that's
what I was gonna ask. I was gonna say what you know, when you started playing in church, and so what was, you played that bass for how long? That was the auction, the $50
the auction, yeah, the auction bass. I played it for about 1.5 years.
Okay, and then you
wore it out.
Yeah, I'm sure. And then what? You went to what bass?
I went to a Yamaha. I forget which model it was, but it was black, and it had a precision and jazz pickup, and it had like the gold inlays around it with the gold knobs that I had, and wore that out for a couple years, you know. So we talking till about 16, 15, 16. That was like my second bass.
Okay. So what was did you start getting, I don't know, playing in church more as a profession, getting paid, or that was outside church? You still wasn't getting them?
Yeah, that was outside church. Because of the way things happened with me learning to play bass in church, you know, everybody was getting paid, but when they tried to pay me, I refused. Because at a young age, I had this thing like, okay, I'm trying to give something back. And so it was kind of a spiritual thing. And then at the same time, I was saying, if I don't feel like coming, I'm not coming. But I was there every week. You know, back in the day, Gouche, y'all know church. I didn't set my clothes out for school. But for church, I set my outfits out the night before. So I was at church. I should have let them pay me, but I never did. I just played, man. I just played my heart, played out, played. Next thing you know, when you start saying, man, I'm at church 6 days a week. That's how I was as a kid. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Carlos Moody, but he wrote Available to You for Tommy's, and wrote a bunch of great songs. Man, everything he wrote was original at our church, so we didn't sing other church's songs. And he was basically flipping EWF. He was like flipping like Earth, Wind, and Fire. So, like, so I came up under such pressure.
Okay. Did you ever want to be anything else other than a musician?
Architect.
Yeah?
Yeah. I got a scholarship, the whole nine. I was going to go for that. Always loved architecture, always love. I'm an attention to detail type of person, so I was always noticing things and would draw and stuff like that. And so that was like something that I really was going to get off into. But thank God, the architect of the bass, or whatever.
Exactly.
I put all of that energy and detail into trying to actually learn that instrument.
Who name 3 bass influences?
Hey Reg, I was just about to go there, but I was gonna name. See, Reggie's think alike. All bass players think alike. I'm gonna start with a name though, because I want to make sure I get you and Gooch ample time to talk about this brother. When was the first time you heard Joel Smith on bass?
Who, me?
Steve.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
No, we're still with Steve for now.
When the first record came out, when the first record that he played on came out,
place. What is this?
That would be it. That would be it, because we was in Chicago. Of course, I was learning as I went.
Exactly.
But I mean, when I heard Joe and I heard the Hawkins, I couldn't believe. This was before the time. This was pre-Tommy's.
First time I heard Joe was actually, he was on drums. Well, he might have played bass on that session too, but there was a picture of him on the drum set on the back of the album. Yeah.
Man, you bringing back my childhood. Yes, sir.
Yeah. What's your favorite car? Gouche smiling on that one. He ready to answer that one. What's your favorite?
Mercedes.
Really?
Yeah.
Sport or sedan?
Sport.
Okay.
I mean, all of the big boys. I had them.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing range and ranges and Benzes. That's all I've ever driven or bought.
Wow. Yeah, that's how bass players roll pretty much. I'm in a Volkswagen personally.
My question is, what's
your first car?
My first car was a Toyota Tercel with a hole in the passenger side floor.
Ooh, how'd that hole get there?
It just over time, it was just rusted. It was the first, but that was the first joint, man. I rode that boy, man, into the dirt.
Went to all your gigs with that car, right?
Everything, yeah.
Yo, when did you get into sticks, smoking cigars, bro? You know, me and you got that in common.
You a cigar smoker?
Reggie, did you talk to me?
Yeah.
I mean, really, I'm a poser on the cigar tip, but I just didn't have guys that that really smoke, man, but I've smoked a few.
Come hang out with me, brother.
Absolutely, I see you.
Yeah, I'm the real deal, bro.
Absolutely,
I don't play no games with that.
I know you don't.
And all the people get in my inbox, oh, that's not holy. I'm like, bro, you got 2 seconds to get out my box. You're about to hear some words you ain't never heard before, bro.
Yeah, but Reggie, you be making me think like, man, I'm of a certain age. I should really dive off into this and just kind of flip the switch. So you might be on to something.
And I just meditate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You gotta have that time for yourself.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Kevin Bronson, he a big cigar guy, even now. So he's tried to. Yeah, we just never really got off into it, but
Now that you brought his name up.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Kevin.
I'm big on bass player drum relationships.
So
I think that's missing nowadays. You don't never see no videos.
It is,
bass players and drummers communicating. How did you get into knowing that you had to lock with the drummer? Where did you get that? Who taught you that?
That was it was instinct mostly, but I mean, listening to records back in the day, that was something to me that just seemed like that was the catalyst to any great sound and stage, band, stage, the whole nine. I mean, me and Kevin, when we were doing the Tommy stuff, man, we were literally saying, okay, in this section, I'm gonna do this on my kick, and I would follow, or I would say, can you switch it to this? I mean, we got really into that, like really deep, and so people called it lock or whatever, but it was just something that we were trying to make things hit, and we were just in a vibe. Nice. So, but that was what I thought was just the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
So I'm glad we're there. Thanks, Reg, for that segue, because that's where we are now. What was your first? Because I got a lot of Brunson records. What was your first one? I got Brunson records back in the early 70s when he was singing solo, I think. It was like a group.
Yeah. Man, I can't remember. I know it was the Since He Came album.
But listen, I mean, I was hip to all of those records. The records that you were killing me on, I mean, all of them was really these. So question.
Okay, hold on. So let me tell you all a quick story.
All right.
So Richard Gibbs, the great, the amazing, was playing bass first on the Miracle album. And I was coming with Carlos Moody when he taught Available to You, and I was sitting in the back of the church.
Ooh.
So for about 2 months, or maybe even more, when they were every Tuesday, I come to rehearsal, sit in Percy and Richard and Kevin and all of these guys, and they was like, who, like, eventually, like, who is that? Who, what nigga? You know what I'm saying? What you do? Who is you? And it's like, he played the bass, at the church. And Richard told me, said, come up here, man. And he put his bass in my lap. And he said, let me hear you play. And Al, and I'm terrified. This was the inception. I'm terrified, man. And Richard looked at me, and so they were like, okay, cool. Like, man, he can play, man. Nice, man. You know, whatever, Steve, man, you good people. Come sit up here and rehearsal with us. Come sit up here. So that's how it started. Richard, some trivia. Richard told me to learn everything on the learn all the songs for that particular album. Now, he used to play for his mother, Inez Andrews, as well, and she was traveling all over the world.
Okay.
He set me up to set me on because he didn't come to the session. He got snowed in a gig in Milwaukee and was like, be ready. I said, I'm ready.
Oh, wow.
Brought my bass, and he put me on, man. That was that. I don't know who really actually knows that other than me and him, but he put me on. And that was the inception of the first record. Now, let me tell you what happened. Once the record got done, they were getting ready for the sound, Sam's tape truck, Joe Neal, I believe was his name. And he was like, man, because I was 17. And they were a little older, man, and he was just like, man, I would go talk to him and, grab a chord or two, holler at him. And so we got really cool. So when we mixed the project, the label said, hey, the bass is too loud. Turn the bass down. Milton Bronson said, you better not touch that damn bass. You better leave it where it is. Matter of fact, turn that bass up some more. Turn it up some more. I turned it up, and so this literally happened. So when the record came out, when he moved the bass and the music, everything was just so, it was not just the choir and the songs, but it was like the band was in front.
Yeah.
And I credit Milton Bronson to Richard. Milton Bronson said, keep that bass loud. And man, when that record came out, man, that's when everything changed.
Yo, I never had a mix with my bass like that, where my bass was just right there in people's face. I didn't have to struggle to hear nothing you played. I felt it. And that's how it should be.
But Andrew taught me how to set it up. Now, I don't know whether you remember, Goop. Turn your bass volume
tell the story.
All the way. He said, turn your bass, because before this was happening, right, it was some, I sat in a couple whining gigs or something for you or some, I can't remember the timeline, but you said, turn your bass all the way up, set your sound, turn your bass down, get you a sound in the monitor the way you want it so you can have the bass coming from this perspective and then turn the bass amp up and put yourself in stereo. Do you remember that, Andrew?
You know what it was? You guys were playing with Vanessa, and I was playing with Finance, and right. But I know that was the tip that I've always used: is full volume, set my sound, and I would do a monitor check before the session started. And everybody wanted bass over the bass, and then I just turned the amp up. But my bass was laying, so there was a overtone that was always in the church. And the church made a big difference too.
Yeah.
The way this church was set up.
You can hear that. You can hear that in the record.
Yeah,
it don't even sound like you did much punches and overdubs on those records because you can hear the bass in the room, which is crazy.
Yeah. You never know. We never got to do any overdubs. They never allowed it. So what we did was what we left was on the flow. So it's a lot of mistakes in there that maybe didn't seem like mistakes, but we never got to redo nothing. So that we knew coming in, we're gonna leave it all on the floor.
So when did you meet Gouche? Because you just kind of slipped that in there, and I'm still trying to figure out when that connection happened.
I can't think of the Tommy's first album I played on. So I ain't an Alzheimer, but I just kind of Gouche. You may have to step in on that. Because me and Percy was playing with Vanessa, and we was doing production. And when was it exactly, Andrew?
It was in the 80s. I mean, because it had to be the 80s because that's when that was.
Yes.
I was playing with the Winans.
Mm-hmm.
We played at the Beverly Theater in LA, in Beverly Hills.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know. We just became friends, and it's amazing. Like for me, listening to you guys talk about all these records, like I don't know none of them songs. I didn't know the songs but I knew all the dudes that was playing the songs. They were all my friends.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't, I started touring so early that
Right.
I was always on tour, so I didn't have a chance to, listen to all those records. And people would ask me, you know this song by so-and-so? I'm like, nah, I don't know. And they look at me like I'm crazy. I said, but that's my boy playing bass on it, though. I know him.
Yeah, because I think I had filled in on some wine and stuff because you went on tour. That's when you kind of went over from doing gospel and you were doing, who was it?
No, they fired me. By that time, they just fired me.
Wait. Okay.
Oh,
Man,
okay.
we'll get to that story later. Which why you getting fired off all these gigs?
Look, you ain't an official musician until you've been fired a couple of times.
Man.
Yeah.
Nobody's been fired more than me, bro.
Wow. Wow.
You're the senior of this, bro.
I got into science, man.
Wow.
I've been there. People don't know. I was fired when I was playing with Hezekiah Walker. When I was playing in 90, I used to play the anniversaries, 90, 91, 92, had the robe on and everything. I would only do the anniversaries. I wouldn't play no records. But then I start mouthing off and, I was immature. I was talking some stuff around somebody's wife. Then the wife went back and told Hezekiah. Next thing I know, me and my boy got a letter. Oh, you guys, your services are no longer needed.
Oh, wow.
Fired. And then a couple of years later, Hez saw me mature.
And wanted back.
I'm
Gave
sure
me a second chance.
Yeah, he came up to me and said, yo, we doing Live in Atlanta. I want you to play a couple of songs. I said, will you do it? I said, sure, definitely. And that's how that happened.
But I want to play a couple of more records that this genius, Steve Huff, Gouche, you may have heard this one. like,
bro, what the hell was on? What was you smoking, bro?
Crack, nigga, crack.
I just have
crack
to say,
cocaine.
man, no free.
Man, look,
I was traveling with Timothy Wright. I was traveling with Hezekiah Walker. We were on buses and, you know, just traveling the country. And I'm telling you, though, that record, oh my God. What was it? They were called Walkmans. We'd be on the bus with Walkmans.
Yeah.
I had that on a cassette, and it would be on rewind, bro.
But the beauty of it is, you was,
what bass was that you were playing?
That was a bass I made.
Whoa.
I had an old red Fender Jazz.
Whoa. What is it with these red funky basses? I had a red funky.
Gave it away.
Wait,
it was a red jazz body. I had Bartolini pickups with the TCT preamp. I bought a Gorin neck and just put it together and
Steve
did the session with it. Yeah, man.
Where's that?
Gave it away too.
Who'd you give it to? I'm gonna find it. I got guns.
I gave that bass away, man. Dude said, man, I want to play bass, and I've been playing. I was like, really? Let me hear, you know, he played it, and I just said, I got a gift for you, and I just brought it to him and gave it to him.
That's beautiful, man. Wow.
Yeah, man, the church, man, was so tight, and it was not a small church. It was a nice medium-sized church, but the way it was set up, we were really all on Spotlight, but there was a stage before the audience, and Kevin was here, kick drum to the audience. I would stand next to him. There was a pillar, piano, synthesizer behind me, Percy in the piano, and in the pulpit on like an L slant, Richard was on the organ, and then the choirs were there. The choir was there, and so they would put mics in the audience. So you hear play Steve, or you hear play Kevin, or you hear, you know, it was just so when it was the anticipation, man. It was almost like the Super Bowl, man, at the recordings. It had gotten so out of hand. So the energy, like when a preacher preaches, you know, the audience really pulls the word or pulls, you know, the word out for them. And the energy there, they will pull it out, man. And I mean, you know, I have leather pants on, boots, you know, I was, you know, trying to, you know what I mean, trying to be fly. And we just get up there, man, and play and go. It was an experience. And that was crazy, because that used to be, my mind's made up, no turning back. Darius wrote it. Yes, I'm happy. I'm on the right track. And I was like, so this is what we used to do as a collective, you know, Richard, Kevin, Al, Percy, Darius, you know, Darius wrote that song. And as a bass player on a lot of the songs, I would say, but if we slow it down, man, how about this? And I just really kind of put a little bit of Marcus into it.
Jamaica Boys,
absolutely. So, you know, that was like kind of like that era. And then we just slowed it down. And that's how a lot of that stuff happened, man.
Marcus Miller is the king.
The king. Influences with Stanley Clarke, Marcus Miller, Nathan East.
So let me
Andrew
say
Gouche.
this. I got a good guest.
Andrew Gouche.
Good guy, yeah. A good guest I want to pop in here in a second. Before I do that, let me just ask you this question, because you was touching on something that those are the great stories, man, around sessions. I love that too. You took us to the energy that was happening at the sessions. How would it go down before and after? What's it like, the band, like after sound check, y'all going to eat together, or was there some feuding going on that session? Somebody was mad because you took his girlfriend, or well, yeah, see?
We were all good Christian young men.
Amen.
No, let me tell you something. We had, no, this is pretty basic.
Okay.
We had a camaraderie, man. It was like we was Earth, Wind, and Fire. It was like we were a band. It was like we played together, but we did community together. We fellowship together. It was more than just playing. It got to a point, man, through that whole 10th year, so on, however many records we made, we were together all the time. So we were rehearsing, playing. Somebody's at somebody's church. We meeting over here, come meet us over here. So we had just become this unit that was kind of inseparable.
Mm-hmm.
And we would rehearse. We put in the work. We did not play. We did not, okay, I hope this work out. We were prepared. We were prepared.
That's important.
Yeah. We sound check, come in, get our sound up, get our sound going. And when that shit hit off, we play. And after the session, we knew it wasn't going to be no overdubs. And we just, man, how you think we did? How you think we did? And it was like, we was just kissing everybody, all the folk, all the women. It was women everywhere. They was, you feel me? It was like rock. It was like a rock concert. It was really rock and roll.
It seemed like it. Y'all seemed like rock stars.
It was rock and roll. I was going to cities, man. And, back in the day, you could have, sometimes if I don't ride, I'll fly in, man. And I walk into certain cities, man. And, bro, there were fans with banners with my name waiting at the gate.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And I was so I didn't even know how. I was like, this is crazy. This is too.
How did you survive the women phase of that? Because it could be overwhelming, bro.
Yeah, I really, man. You know what I'm saying?
Be honest, brother. Be honest.
I'm being honest. I really was not a promiscuous guy. Not meaning anything is wrong with that or whatever. But I just had few females here and there. I
wasn't promiscuous. I just had a few.
I was single though. I was single, so the women, man, it was tough. I mean, man, I grew up raised by 3 sisters, man. So I always, what I'm saying, much respect, always respect the women, but it wasn't no women that I, what I'm saying,
right,
couldn't have that I didn't want in it being a nice type of a person,
right.
And being a, very, very kind and very respectful, but things went down, man. But it really wasn't with me. You have to talk to Kevin. You'd have to talk to Percy, baby. You'd have to talk to Richard Gibbs. They was the players, man. I was just a young boy. Some shows I couldn't go to because I was too young starting out. So They showed me the game, man. I'm not throwing nobody under the bus, but their women was everywhere, man. It was everywhere, man. Everywhere.
I think for all of us, it's the same thing.
Yeah. I didn't have no scandals though. I had no, it was really very funny. I should have did more than I did, but I didn't.
Yeah, probably it's the best that you have peace in your life. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You're right.
That's why you still look 12 years old. Man.
Right. I'm gonna grade out stress.
First off, can I ask Andrew a question, Reggie?
Yeah, because we wrapping you up. I hate.
Okay.
We don't want. Man, I got a million more questions for you, but yeah.
Go ahead. I'll wait till you start.
No, but what I'm saying is, we pretty much. I was trying to keep it. We could be here till midnight, man. So I said, out of respect to the actual king, is King Andrew Gouche? I think that's what he's known as.
Emperor.
We're not gonna keep the emperor waiting because I know he ain't ready for the questions I got for him though.
I hope I am.
He is not ready. I had to dig a little bit. So yeah, go ahead. So that's a good transition. Go ahead, Steve. Ask him.
First off, the name Gouche. What?
Emperor.
Yeah. I'm trying to dig deep into it. I mean, what is that? Is that French?
There's nothing deep about it. All of our names came from people who were not our ancestors.
Right.
And that's all it is.
Come on, man. Come on, Andrew. Gouche.
Yeah.
Could you imagine your name? When I say it to this day, it still rolls off my tongue with a certain je ne sais quoi. You feel me? Yeah, Gouche, man. That
you can't say Gooch. You got to say Gouche.
As a bass player that I admire so much, everybody has a language, and an accent. But like Andrew's name, when you played, it was like you played with the accent of like of French, like if the French. You know when you hear him talk, man. It's like you can hate if you want to, but it's a romantic feeling that you get.
Mm.
And Andrew always had that feeling that it was just a very special vibe, the way you played. And I'm not talking about, you doing a whole bunch of licks or whatever, which is crazy. I'm just saying, just the way you played was just very, very, made me stop and really try to see like, who is this? What is really going on here? What's up with that? When you hear Ozzy speak, when you hear Ozzy preach, come on, man. You think they smarter and they just sound so. You're playing.
Kern's on here.
Yeah.
That had to be Kern, all them platinum records.
Unmute him, Reg. He's muted.
No, I had him unmuted, but he's a businessman, so there was so many meetings going on. I had to mute real quick.
And he had to talk to his staff real quick.
Yeah, right. He's in Korea right now. Right?
How you, man? Long time no see, man.
Oh, man, out here in Detroit, man, holding it down. You know how we do.
You looking like you graduated high school, man. What's going on?
What up, Huff?
What's happening, baby?
What up, though?
What's good?
Love you, brother.
This is
Love
special.
you too, man.
This is so special right here, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So
a lot of history on this live right here, man.
Yeah. But we moving right to you, legend, almighty.
Yes, sir.
We'll start with this question for you, Gouche.
Okay.
Why bass?
My mother was incredible, and she still is incredible singer. And when we were young kids, she told us that we all had to play an instrument. And at 7 years old, she told me I had to learn something. So I knew my daddy had this Hugh Masekela record, Miles Davis Bitches Brew record. And I saw the trumpet, and I was like, well, the trumpet only got 3 keys, so that's gonna be easy. So I'm gonna play the trumpet. Little did I know, it's all in your lip, right? So
yeah,
I learned, but I played trumpet from the time I was 8 years old.
Wow.
And then in 1973, I was 14. I saw Larry Graham in Graham Central Station on Soul Train, begged my mother to get me a bass, and she got me went to Sears. Y'all know about Sears with the Tysco. I had the Tysco bass.
Oh boy. And
the Sears Silvertone amp. Like they would sell them together, the amp and the bass and the amp together was $129. And it was a 40-watt amp with a 10-inch speaker in it. And I played that thing till the whole cone separated. So it was still on there, but the whole outer circle of the cone was just separated, but it was still on there. And
string?
Huh?
4-string?
That was all it was back then.
Yeah.
But it was a Tysco. I got a picture somewhere of me holding that bass, man. But and I was when I was 13 also, we used to go to James Cleveland's church, and I used to sing in the choir at James's church. And James's bass player back then lived in New York. I don't know if you guys know Bruce Carter.
Yeah.
I know Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce Carter was playing with James, so he wasn't in LA, so there was no bass player at the church. So when I was about 15, James let me start just bringing the bass to church because there was an acoustic 370 amp there, and he used to let me sit over on the side and try to figure out the song. And that's where my ear, I think, came from, because James always had great keyboard players, and he had the best singers. So that's where I started. You know, a lot of people ask me like, well, who are your influences on bass? And my influences were not bass players, you know, it was singers. And I think that has a lot to do with why I play the way I play, because there were no gospel bass players back then, you know, of note. And so I didn't have anybody to pattern myself after, you know.
Right. Wow.
And there was no standard. So I just did what I felt, and I created my own standard, you know. And it just so happened, you know, my story is that I was blessed to be born in LA, in the mecca of the music business. And most of the things that I experienced were a direct result of me being with James.
Wow.
My first time playing with James outside of the church was in 1980 when we went to Oakland and we did that concert, and which is the movie Gospel. The Clark sisters, the Mighty Clouds of Joy, Shirley Caesar, James, and the Hawkins. And I was playing with James. That was my first time playing with James. We didn't know it was going to be a full-length movie. And
was that the one with Boris Kojo?
No. What?
There's another gospel. Okay, so there's another gospel movie.
This is the concert. You know, where you see James taking the sticks from the drummer.
Yeah.
Then,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the movie.
Yeah. It was an actual movie. It was in theater.
Okay. Yeah. Because there was another guy. Okay, go ahead. My bad.
What was the name of that movie? Tell that to the people. Called Gospel. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Skinny dude with the shag. When they show the drummer, they pan over to the left. The skinny dude with the shag playing the Yamaha 4-string. That's me on bass.
I thought that was ingenious that the drummer kept coming back.
Yeah, right.
But the funny thing about that, that was a routine that they did. Like we did that every city we went to, where James would take the sticks and then he'd get another pair of sticks. And if you actually look at it real close, you can see James point to him. They called it the routine. It was called the routine. And James points at him, and that meant do the routine. And back then, a lot of people laugh about it now, but that was like, James Cleveland was as big as you could get back then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I give him all the credit for my early growth, because he allowed me to and he never tried to tell me what to do. He just allowed me to be myself. And so I always, when I do clinics, I talk about starting out with him, and I always give him the honor and credit, you know, because he gave me my start.
Well, you were getting paid for that gig, right? Or no?
For the Gospel, that movie?
With James Cleveland.
Well, you know, James was funny, because James and anybody that did them old school gospel gigs back in the day, you know, they paid you pretty much whatever they felt like paying you.
The yellow envelope. The little yellow envelope, right?
Yeah, but he would one night, if we did 3 nights in a row, he might give you 300 one night and give you 75 the next night and 100 the night after that. And it just, we didn't question it.
Right.
And back then, we had to pay for our own hotels too. So yeah, that's like the real old school. Like we paid for our own hotels, you know.
Wait for real.
Yeah. So, and that was a norm, and it wasn't until we went to Israel in '83. It was this thing. It's called Gospel Goes to the Holy Land, and I went with James, and that's where I met Andre Crouch, and that was James Cleveland, Andre Crouch,
yeah,
Shirley Caesar, and Barry White was the MC for the concert. There's actually a video that I just found out about. It's on YouTube. It's called Gospel in the Holy Land, but it's actually the whole concert is somebody made a video of it. But that's where I met Andre. And then when I started working with Andre, that's when I learned about what per diem was and all that kind of stuff, because the first time I toured with him and we were going to Europe, we were at the airport, and then the road manager hands me an envelope. It got $800 in it. And I was like, man, so you paying me for the tour already? He was like, no, that's your per diem. And I was like, well, Per diem. What's that?
What's that?
No, I mean, you don't know until somebody tells you.
Sound like a doctor.
That's your money that you use to eat with on the road. And I was like, wow, per diem. And the funny thing, when I started playing with the Winans, they started getting per diem because when I first went to Detroit, and they were like, well, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars. I was like, well, how much is the per diem? And then they were like, what's that? I said, well, that's my money that I'm going to need to eat with every day. So that's when Percy, and back then it was Percy, Jeff Davis, Dana Davis, and Tim Bowman on guitar.
They knew what that was. The Winans, they was taking that per diem.
No, they didn't know. They really didn't know, bro.
They was eating good.
Wow. That's a whole nother conversation.
Kern, no.
So who played for Andre Crouch before you?
Abe Laboria.
No, Abe didn't. He didn't play live a lot. It was a guy named James Felix who was traveling with Andre, and Abe would play every once in a while, like maybe some big stuff sometime. But Abe did all the records.
Yeah, man.
And actually, he didn't do all the records. James Felix did a lot of the records too. But the first album I did was No Time to Lose, and that's the one with Otis Jesus and Got Me Some Angels and all those songs on there. And Abe and I did that record. Like he did half and I did half.
What's a good tune up for that you like?
Living This Kind of Life Right Now. Right Now is a good song.
That's it.
Like a wind, if you listen, you can hear it. Right now. If we ever needed him before we need it. Now, yeah we do. Right now. Now is the day of salvation. Right now. God is speaking to every nation. Right now. If we ever needed him before we need it. Now, yeah we do. Right now.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Andrew, I used to play those songs every day, trying to mimic you. You gave me the boom, ba-doom, boom, boom. I got that from you.
This is why we doing this. This right here, y'all, is why we doing this. This is it right here.
Wow.
This is why we doing this.
Oh my God.
So I guess
I can sing those songs verbatim. Now, I can't remember a lot, but those were my rehearsals. That's how I got to play in church, because I went home and I would play Andre Crouch because he was the hottest thing out right.
And Gouche, you know what? Steve mean that because he couldn't remember his own songs. Bro, I broke the console. I tore the back out the console, figured out how to hook the cord to my 1/4 inch, cut it, connected them to the aux, and used to play that record until it was broke. And I would figure out how to make mine. My cord wouldn't go around, so I used to sit on the console enough to get the cord around, and I would practice those songs.
Yo, what bass was that, Gooch? That sounds good.
Precision.
Don't cry, Reg. Reggie crying.
Precision.
P-Bass.
It was so crunchy and woody and just I loved it, man, bro.
And you was mixed loud. I like the mix you had.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That was Bill Maxwell.
Bill
Maxwell was doing all those records.
Wow. Bass,
all right. I know some stuff, but I'm sorry, Goose. Now, okay, so now, all right. Let me shut up now. I had my turn, bro. Wow. I was an Andre fanatic. I was a fanatic.
I was an Andre Crouch fanatic too, man.
I was like, if I can play this, then I can fit. I can. You shut up, man. Go on, keep going, man.
Yo, Kern.
Yo, what up, though?
If you got one question for Gooch, what would you ask? What would you ask Gooch?
Man, Gouche is just so phenomenal. It's not just one. It'll take me about 100 questions to ask him. But
all right,
I just when Gouche plays up top, man, just how Gouche, you made me want to quit playing bass when you came to Detroit one day.
Yeah.
With BB and CC, I said I left the church like I quit.
Yeah.
Man, you were so amazing, man. But yeah,
Hey, Gooch, what record did you do with BB and CC? I know you did record.
Searching for Love. And something else I can't remember.
That's a great album too.
Two different lifestyles, or
no, I did. The song I remember doing is Searching for Love.
That's what Luther's singing background, right?
That may have been the only song I ever did with BB and CC.
Some search for a lifetime. It hurts, and I know to live for and don't find. Can't smile until my record shows, and everyone here knows that it's real. So how can I prove what I'm saying? It's the heart that is filled with such joy. The words that I say express the way that I feel. But it's more than just a feeling. It's the reality of this whole world. Loving a form of a babe that was born to reveal. Searching for love. Some search high and low, which is the reason why I sing, to tell those who don't know there's no rest until to my And everyone here knows that it's real. So how can I prove what I'm saying when it's the heart that is filled with such joy? Where the words that I say express the way that I feel. Oh, but it's more than just a feeling. It's the reality of this whole world. Yes, love that I'm born of a babe that was born to reveal, searching for love. Well, I'm telling you, I found it. Oh, I know everyone knows that love is a feeling, but it's more, it's real. Oh, yes, it is, and my record shows till everyone here knows that it's real. I said it's real. Oh, let my record show till everyone knows that it's real. Oh, let my record show till everyone here knows that it's real.
Yo, that's the major leagues right there.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Coach, let me ask you a question. So,
Yeah.
so let's ask you. I'm gonna ask you a question about that song. When you recorded that song, were you in the studio with orchestras or the arrangers or the producers, or it was just left at your liberty to say, "Hey, go to the studio, put bass on this track. You'll be there with the engineer. Do what you do."
BB was there. I don't remember who the producer was, but I know that
Was it Keith Thomas?
I don't even remember. It was at like 89 or 90, bro.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I
91.
I remember just going there, and the other stuff might have been on there already.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have overdubbed somebody else's bass because I did that a couple of times. There was bass on there already.
Oh wow.
And I went because I wasn't even playing with BB and CC anymore. I played with them 89 right to the beginning of 88 to the beginning of early 90. And then BB wanted me to move to Nashville, and I wasn't moving to Nashville. So
Why not?
Because I'm from Los Angeles, Doc. Nashville, it was not the city it is now. Nashville used to seem like at about 10 o'clock at night, somebody just took a big master switch and just turned off the whole city. Like,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're on that tune, and you know, first of all, if you would have moved to Nashville, it would have been a rap. I mean, it was a rap. It's for rap. Period. You just wrapped it up, like period, in bass. But Nashville, man, you would have probably been working too much. But here's the thing, because it's not as, and I'm gonna put this out there, it's not as cliquish as LA and New York per se, in a different way. You know,
it is.
It's worse, you think?
It's a serious click in Nashville.
It's super clicking in there, especially when it comes to the country world. They're not trying to hear it.
So where? Let me ask you, where is it? There's clicks everywhere. There's no city that doesn't have that click problem.
But you know, everybody does that. They get their boys in. You know, LA.
Yeah.
this influx of Berkeley dudes, man. And Berkeley cats come to LA and get put on, and then they put on other Berkeley cats. Same thing with the Memphis dudes. All the Memphis dudes came to LA and they put their boys on, which, you know, I'm not even mad at that. You put your boy on. That's all it is, you know. So that's what they did, bro. You know,
how did you get down in that how did you give a part of that type of vibe that we get the gigs, BB, and all the stuff you did?
For me, I was before everybody else, dude. Back in the day, it was me and Joel, and it was
talk about
Joel. Joel wouldn't leave Oakland. If Joel had to come to LA, he would have taken over, literally. He would have taken it. But I tried to get him. I told him, man, you come down here and you can stay with me till you get some place to stay. He was like, nah, I don't want to leave Oakland. Joe was such a humble, he was almost like a hippie almost. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't interested in the big city vibe. That didn't interest him at all. And it made me respect him more because it showed me that he wasn't motivated by how much money he could make. I got another good friend of mine that's like that, who's made a lot of money. He had $1 million gig and he quit because he didn't want to do that, because that's not his motivation. And so when I was coming up, man, you know, I'm so much older than everybody else. There wasn't a million dudes like it is now, you know.
Right.
That's why I was going all over the country doing stuff, you know.
You was the clique, huh? You were the clique for a minute.
Yeah. And I to Detroit, everywhere.
I missed that. I hate that I never had that experience. Like what you guys had, Steve, with you and Percy and Richard and Al, and you know, y'all came up together, right?
Yeah.
And that was always a beautiful thing to me. And I see cats do it now. And it's like having the college experience. Like I never went to college. And I, you know, my life has been amazing, but I always wonder what it would have been like if I had have had that experience, you know?
What?
I feel that a lot. I think about that same way, same thing, man.
Yeah.
So let me ask a question before you come back, Reg. Yo, Gooch, what you just said is interesting. Because I was going to ask you, Steve, a question about, if now that you're a little older, you get to sit and you reminisce, and if you could do it again, would you trade anything for the career of music that you had for another way of life? If you could do it over?
I think no matter which path you take, there's going to be positive and negatives to it. So I doubt very seriously that I would make smarter business decisions. That's what I would do. But in terms of following, the thing that I am happy about is that I've stayed true to myself. I never compromised my principles and my beliefs for the sake of a gig. And that's why certain gigs I didn't get, because I wasn't going to do what other stuff was required to be on the gig. That just wasn't me. So I don't know that I would do. The thing that I would do would be to think about the future more than I did, you know, and I did, you know, but I don't know that if I had another mindset, if I would have done all the things that I did, because I was 17 years old and I'll never forget it. I said, I'm going to be a musician or I'm going to be a bum. And there was no plan B for me, you know, and then it was just amazing that God allowed me to go the places that I went and experience the things that I did. Because, you know, I know a million incredible dudes, man. And one thing that I always realized too is that it didn't have to be me, you know. And there's a bunch of people, and we all know them dudes, man. That Joker's cold. How come he ain't never done what he did?
Right.
You know?
But I'm gonna say this, Coach. You know, I appreciate that, and I think we're all kind of on the same page with that, man. You know, it could have been anybody else, but I'm sure there's something, in my opinion, man. Like, you've blessed me so much. Before I even knew you, I should tell a story about how we met. I'm sure you remember that. I think it was at a convention.
GMWA, yeah.
GMWA.
You had your booth set up.
Yeah. And but I don't think anyone else. Dude, God selected you, man, because of what you're made of, and every part of you, how musical you are. You're so melodic. your approach, your mindset, your thought process. The songs that you're on for a reason. Nobody else could ever play those songs that way. And I'm gonna go as far as to say some of them songs would not have been as big as they are without your melodic input that was put on. And that's true. That's real talk. I'm sorry, because I've heard people play, like you said about Steve. Man, Steve, I heard other people playing your songs before I actually heard the record. But I bet you they wasn't playing the songs like Steve was playing the songs, you know. So
like that Mind's Made Up song.
Yeah.
I heard a million bad versions of that, dude.
Oh wow!
Like I think just when you just played it, that's probably the first time I ever heard that record, man. And Steve, you killing on there, bro. And
Yes,
thank you, man.
That's crazy. Isn't that crazy? Now, speaking of versions of songs, right? I'm, you know, we all grew up in church, a lot of hymns and all of that, right? Hymns and classical, and classic, not classical, but classic gospel. Dude, you produced this.
You just that freak everybody else, bro.
So listen, we got like 300 comments on Facebook. I can't. I'm fighting tears. Enjoying the songs. I'm entertaining the conversation. I'm trying to host it, and I'm trying to look at. Everybody's just talking about how incredible all this stuff is. And one comment I just happened to look at is a question I want to ask you too. How do you become so melodic? What are you thinking when you play bass? I know what I'm thinking when I play. People say I'm a very melodic player as well, but Coach, you don't just play quarter notes and whole notes. So are you thinking of are you saying, man, a flute player would do this, let me try it on bass? Or are you just filling in areas to keep bringing the music, the song going up and up?
I don't like, it's funny because I've had people tell me the technical terms of the stuff that I do because I'm totally self-taught. I used to read music when I was young, but I forgot. I fell off of that. But so I think the thing that I've always done, man, I played what I felt, and it wasn't a lot of times like going over stuff over and over again. Then you work out a pattern. But a lot of times when you just playing like on the fly, I mean, I played that Wade in the Water song. It's funny how that song came to be. Some of you guys probably know about a thing I used to do in LA. It was called the Praise Connection. Anytime anybody would come to LA, if they were in town on that Sunday night, they would come to Praise Connection, and we did it for.
It was incredible.
And it was funny because, everybody, Warren Campbell, Nissan, Erica, Tina, Walter Hawkins came through there. Angie and Debbie came one time. John P. Key came twice. Fred came, brought his group. They actually called and asked. They said, we're going to be in town. This is 98. They said, we're going to be in town Easter weekend, and we're performing Saturday night, but we're going to be here, stay in town on Sunday. Fred wants to know if he can bring the group to Praise Connection. And this was before the internet was even popping like that. And I was getting emails from people all over the world saying, man, I can't wait to come to LA. I want to come to Praise Connection. But the Wade in the Water song, we used to rehearse on Saturday. And one day I was just sitting in my living room going, hear that?
Yeah.
And I was just doing that. And then I just started singing Wade in the Water on top of it. And my singers were on the way to rehearsal. And I showed it to them. I kind of came up with it like right then. And then, and then we did it the next night, the next Sunday, that following night. And Warren Campbell heard it. And he's like, man, where'd you get that from? I was like, well, it's my arrangement. He's like, man, you got to let me do that on Mary Mary. And I was like, who? He's like, well, Erica and Tina, that's my new group. Like, they weren't even formed yet, And I was like, well, cool. And so we went in the studio to do it. He said, I want you to produce it, which was such a blessing, man, And then we went in and did it, man. And then that record came out, man. And it was on the same record as Shackles. And that record sold like 4 million copies.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one on the record because Wade in the Water is public domain. I got 100% writers and publishing on the song. And even when I got ready after we did it, I went to Warren to talk to him about how he wanted to do, because usually you just expect to give up publishing, right? I said, so how you want to do with the publishing? Warren was like, man, he said, I don't want none of that song. That's your song, bro.
Look at that.
And Warren said to me, he said, bro, you were such a blessing to me. You didn't even know you were. He said, I had to have you on this record. And that's when I learned, because at that time when I was doing Praise Connection, I was starting to get burned out. I owned all the keyboards because I had these keyboard players that didn't have no gear. So I would bring all the microphones. So I would get there 3 hours before that thing every Sunday and set up all that stuff by myself. Wow. And I saw people get record deals, production teams formed. That's how Nissan and Craig got together. That's how they got together. Praise Connection. Eric Seats and Rapture, Praise Connection. Terrence Martin and Marlon Williams, they got together at Praise Connection. And it was like people were coming in. At one point, the Aaron Spelling Company came and was recruiting people for made-for-TV movies. Like, it was like that. And then one Sunday I look up and there's Brandy sitting in the audience, you know. And then another Sunday, somebody's like, it was a table, people reserved the whole table, and they were like, you know, that's Eric Benet, right? I was like, no, I didn't know. You know, people were like that were coming, man. And it was funny because I saw all these people benefiting from it. And I started getting burned out because I'm doing all the heavy lifting on this thing. And I'd actually gotten to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm tired of being a vehicle for everybody else, you know? And when Warren wanted to do this song, and it wound up being the biggest blessing in my life ever. And that's when I learned that there's a whole nother kind of money that you ain't gonna never get being a musician.
Right.
You know? And it was funny because I didn't tour. I used to play with Gladys Knight. I stopped playing with Gladys in 97. And from 97 to 06, I didn't tour with anybody. And people would be like, well, who you playing with? I'm like, I ain't playing with nobody. And then they see what I'm driving, and then they see where I live. Then it was funny because there was a rumor going around LA that I was selling drugs.
Wow.
Yeah. But what I learned from when this happened, man, I learned, and I always say it, you know, because I had blessed so many people, man. Just like you, Steve, I've given away a bunch of basses, and all my basses are like $5,000 basses, man.
Yeah.
And just most of the musicians in LA started out playing with me. I've turned on so many people. Like, I got Ethan his first gig. When he
Ethan who? Say the last name. A lot of people don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Ethan. And Ethan, he'll tell you, is like the first time anybody saw Ethan play was at Praise Connection. That was the biggest blessing for me, man. I still get checks today from that record. They like $3.
Wow.
But still.
$3. We'll take it, right, Reg? Because you don't get royalties in gospel music as a musician in New York. But go ahead.
Oh, zero.
Go ahead.
Well, I didn't get none as a musician. I got it because I produced it, and I got a Grammy plaque on my wall over here, all because of Warren Campbell. You know?
Look, we produced many songs, Goose. We still didn't get paid though.
We didn't have our papers.
Yeah.
So,
but go ahead.
This one right here.
Woo!
Turn it down a little bit.
Too loud.
Wait, which record did you do that on?
Edwin Hawkins Music and Art Seminar live in Houston, Texas.
Do I need the spirit?
Yeah.
That's it.
It's crazy because I started playing at it when we were rehearsing in rehearsal, and Johnny started playing it with me. And Walter comes over, he goes, can you play a different bass line? And I was like, well, what do you want me to play? He wanted me to just play quarter notes. I need your spirit. He just wanted me to do that.
Right.
And Johnny and I played that for about 8 bars. We was like, nah, Doc.
What bass did you use on that song?
It's Fender Jazz.
Wow.
Fender Jazz.
I need your spirit to fall fresh on me. Your spirit to give me the strength I need. When I fall on my knees, I know that you will rescue me. I need your Holy Spirit in my soul. I need your love, dear Lord. That's all I'm asking you. The love you showed for all my sins way back on Calvary. When I'm down in despair,
I'll go a little further up.
Wow.
Lord, I thank you. Lord, I love you. Lord, I glorify you. If you let your spirit fall on me.
Is that Kevin Bond on keys?
So that I can live right.
I think so.
So that I can talk right.
Classic stuff right there.
That's classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
That when that hit, that was when I was like,
Oh yeah.
when you like, okay, we got to come back with something. I remember that.
Yeah.
There,
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was the one.
Classic.
That was the song that if your choir didn't do it in church, the band was doing it for offering.
Yeah, exactly.
Lick for lick.
Every bass player had to learn that. Every bass player had to learn that lick.
Yep.
That's true.
And a lot of them
Dun, 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 bum, bum,
a lot of them didn't know another part of the song, but they knew that vamp. They started the vamp.
Offering time.
Offering time.
Yeah.
Play I Need Your Spirit. Play I Need Your Spirit. What song that we don't play? Just play it. Or you don't know that, well, just play the music then.
Just play the vamp.
Heard it many times. Offering.
Yeah. You're missing that these days, brother. Songs don't make you want to do that no more.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like to point something I realized, man. The songs then were different than they are now. No criticism, just observation. And I believe that those songs like that, like you were playing Gouche, like I were playing, like Reggie, like we all were playing back there, pulled a different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those Hawkins songs, man, were
they made for bass.
But they were like the greatest songs ever written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you playing Oh Happy Day, when you playing I Need Your Spirit, you know, when you those songs, man, were just different. And I believe that they have a lot to do with shaping, you know, all of us at that time.
Yeah.
From Holy One. Wow. Man.
Yeah.
I think
amazing.
I mean, you playing with Andre Crouch, like, bro, that was like any musicians, that was the pinnacle of anything.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know those were, I didn't know that was you, but I know how much I studied those two songs that you played on that album, like it was going like break the record, because I need a new one because I done played it so much, trying to just cop and trying to vibe with the sound that you created. So I mean,
speaking of studying though, there's a brother on here named Kern that played with this group named the Whiners at Live in Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That was a great record.
Who the heck is on bass?
Kern, I used to play that record in my car with every window down, because that was one of them songs that you wanted the world to know y'all missing something.
Yes, sir.
Y'all missing something. Switching from Kern, I'm gonna get you on here, man. We're gonna have to do a special Zoom just on you, you know, and on matter of fact, I have something coming up that we're gonna talk about, and maybe hopefully you'll be available for it. I'll talk with my man, and I think you'd be perfect for this form, man, that we got coming up. And Reg, that's an example. That's an example of them keeping what they did that night. The bass was it was rocking right in the house, and I love when live sessions get mixed like that, man. When they use the house mics, you know what I'm saying? Then you get that brightness, because you know that's the worst thing in the world. The worst thing in the world as a bass player, man, to me, in my opinion, I've done a lot of records. We all have. You do somebody's album, especially if it's live, and they don't use none of the mics from that night. It's so many overdubs on the record. They almost got to tuck you, tuck this, tuck that. The bass sound, no pop, no high end on the bass. It's all muddy. And it just, there's no clarity. And people don't understand that grit and that grunge is an important element in electric bass on records. It goes all the way back to the 70s, like we were saying.
Yeah.
You know,
well, Kern was killing Reg on not just the bass, but then he returned to that keyboard.
He returned to the move. Yeah,
just plays your
world. Wear it out.
Oh.
Man, growing up in Detroit, we grew up around, you know, P-Funk Labs was here. We used to call United Sound Studio. So I've got a chance to hang out with Bernie Worrell and Bootsy as a kid, just watching those cats at United Sound Studio. And Andrew Gouche, like I say, when I first heard Andrew with BB and CC, then he was also recording with the Whiners. So Andrew left this big shoe in Detroit that had to be filled.
Hey, Kern, let me tell you something. Listen.
So amazing.
Kern. So after the Whiners fired me, I got fired from them too. Y'all came to the Universal Amphitheater, and I went to the show. I was still real mad at them. But dude, you was killing so hard on bass, dude. You were killing, bro. And
thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Skip Pruitt was playing too, right?
Yeah, Skip.
Yeah, y'all were killing, dude. So I was filled with love and hate that night, man.
Well, no, man, you left a big shoe to follow, man. I mean, when I saw you with BB and CC, I was like, man, I gotta go to the woodshed and figure this out, because this cat is killing up there. But soloing and playing the bass at the same time.
Exactly. He's so melodic.
And Jonathan, I love.
But here's the thing, right? When did that happen, Gooch? What you just saying, when you got fired from the Whiners? What year was that?
86.
Okay, 86. But
a lot of things I don't remember, but I remember my firings like they were yesterday.
So maybe
you was a blessing to me, bro.
But maybe that's why this happened. Okay, ain't nobody ever gonna fire me again.
Every time I feel that spirit
like the Hammond organ pedals, bro.
Dude,
Yeah.
hey,
Bro.
were you MD on that session? He told you to reprise that song, man.
That was a natural progression right there.
Yeah,
But you know, it's funny. You guys have all done live records, and you know, sometimes stuff just happens, and you just lucky enough to catch it on tape. You know,
Yeah.
The most magical moments happen that are not planned. You know,
Yeah.
and we've all experienced that, man. It was like, man, I was producing a record one time, man, and the choir that I was producing, they didn't have a big budget, so they only had so much tape. And there was a song we did, the first song, and I told the guys in the truck, as soon as we end the song, stop the tape. And this song, the vamp we went to was so killing, and they had stopped the tape. We didn't get none of it, dude.
Oh my goodness.
One of them ones that ain't nobody gonna never hear, but I can still remember it. But those moments, they just happen, man. You don't really plan them. Like I never planned a reprise in my life, like ever. And
Wow.
y'all know how that go, man. You do that stuff, man, and stuff just and especially that speaks volumes to having the right group of people together too. Because you can step out sometimes, and then everybody just knows to go with you if you got the right dudes, you know. Right. And we've been in situations where you can't do that, you know. It's like
pull it back.
Yeah, everybody ain't on the same page, but that's a blessing, man. When you playing with the right people, that's everything, dude.
I'm gonna tell you this, man. On because these were back-to-back albums. That one was 1988. People on like Facebook, they blowing up wanting to know what song this is. LA Mass, 1988. This next one, people ask me all the time, like when I play shout music, what am I thinking and where did I get, like, I don't know, my ideas from, my concept from. I got them from you. I tell people that all the time, but you even say, nah, bro, but I dig, and I'm going to play you the song. I think people that know, really have studied maybe me and you, might be able to relate. Yeah, Reg did kind of get his style from Gouche, and this was the particular tune I'm talking about.
Is this you or me?
This is you. 1989.
Hey, play that slap bass part again. I'm I'm sitting here like trying to figure out what that was. I don't know. Is that's LA Mass?
That's LA Mass. That's this record.
Oh, that's when you both. I remember this.
My life was torn beyond repair. I felt so alone. See, no one cared. You came along, gave me a song to ease the pain and erase the strain. With no one to care, but you promised me you'd be there on time. You did just what you said. Against all odds, I made the choice to give you my trust.
Man, I mean,
Taking me back, Doc. Man, I ain't
Yeah, I remember that. I remember learning that.
about to cry, man.
Yeah, I remember learning that.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Those records, Gouche, touch the heck out of my life, man. I mean, bro, we got about 500 comments already on Facebook, man, and people are just like, people going in. These songs touch so many people around the world, man.
Yeah.
And I'm
Some of these cats probably never heard this before, right?
And well, a lot of them are saying, my favorite tune, or I remember this, or we learned this.
Yeah, because that was a big song. Some, know, those songs, they last. They still around today.
Yes, sir.
And that's a testament to what you were saying, Steve. Like, I mean, like you said, no disrespect to anybody who does music today. Those songs just seem to have so much substance back then, man. Like, and we're not going too far back either.
They were anointed in a whole different kind of way.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's kind of like it's anointing now, but back then it was just that old oil, man. That just, I mean, you think about Andre. I mean, you think about James Cleveland. You think about Milton Brunson. That was a whole nother.
Oh yeah. Then you got to throw Thomas Whitfield in there too.
I'm sorry. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
The maestro,
Thomas,
baby.
Yeah,
Thomas
yeah.
Whitfield. Man, I used to wait for him. Any record he dropped, I was waiting in my car at Sound Warehouse, buying a CD to sit in the car and listen to
The amazing
what he
thing.
was writing.
The amazing thing is, so many years later, these songs invoke the exact same emotion that it did the first time we heard it. You know,
saw that just now.
And I always say, like, I'm about to be 61 this month, and I said years ago, I never want to be that old condescending dude. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not. But there is. I remember when I was young and I heard the older people talk about the way things used to be. You know, and I understand evolution and change and progress and all of that. But it's just something. My church in LA, there's no song that gets the response than the song we play on First Sunday, and we play The Blood. And that's when you see the whole church up praising God, man, you know. Because we do all the stuff with all the cool beats and the funky changes and all of that kind of stuff, the 1, 6, 4, 5 songs and all of that, man. But there's just something about this music, and I love the fact that it will never, ever die, you know.
Never.
It'll never die.
In the world more powerful than gospel, bro.
We had a family. We have a big family chat. You know, my immediate family, Gouche, and they had sent an old version of that someone, it was a clip, and then you recorded it like a couple weeks ago. You played, right? Did you play The Blood?
Blood, yeah. I saw your copy.
I took that clip and I sent it to the family, and we talked about it because we talked about the 2 times, man. But when you played it, man, it's basically like you said, it was a moment to really sit and like just like boy, like where God done brought you from. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a really good COVID-19 moment.
Yes, sir.
Steve, let me ask you, and I want to ask you a question. Oh, he's playing the music. One of the things that I've realized that the older I get, a lot of the songs that I played back in the day, it's like I'm living them now. It's like Jesus knows how much you can bear. I will go in Jesus' name. Those things are powerful.
Yeah, man.
And it's so crazy that the older you get, you realize the power of what the words are. Because when you're younger and you're a musician, you don't really pay attention to the lyrics.
Right.
That's so true. That's so true.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Can we do a because we've mentioned Tommy quite a few times on this, and I just, you know, we're talking about gospel and songs touching you over the years, and they still touch you.
Along this walk, we've learned that a few trials could come, and many a wind would blow. A few friends would come, and many would finally go. But in the words of our founder, we, the Thomas Whitfield Company, along with family and friends, have learned to say, hallelujah, anyhow, praise God. Anyhow, praise your Jesus.
Times. Hallelujah.
Wow.
Oh man, I'm on
Yes,
Hallelujah
sir.
anyhow. Watch Me. We did the Yolanda Adams record together. We did
Vanessa too, right?
Vanessa Bell Chosen, Peace Be Still. We did
That's the record.
People don't realize how many records Kern did, man. He did.
My Faith, all the Clark Sisters stuff, the Sincerely album, the Heart and Soul, More and Conqueror album. We did
you did Walk With Me?
I did Walk With Me on Thomas Whitfield. I did another one, Yield Not to Temptation.
This one? This is Walk With Me.
I ain't got time now.
Walk with me,
Yeah, that was me.
walk
We did that on
with
6
me,
months.
walk with me, Lord. Walk with me, oh, while I'm on this teacher's journey. I want Jesus to walk want you to hold me in my trouble. Hold me when the storm of life is raging. Hold me, let me know everything's alright. I like to say it one more time. Hold me in my troubles. Hold me in the storm of life is raging. Hold me, let me know everything's alright. Yeah. While I'm on this teacher's journey. I want, Lord, to walk with. I want you to walk with me, Jesus. Walk with me. I want you to walk with me, Lord. I want you to walk with me, Lord. You see, it gets so hard sometimes, but I know if you walk with me, 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 Lord. Walk with me, talk with me, Lord. Hey, talk with me, walk with me, Lord. Hey,
I always thought it wasn't fair how much talent was in Detroit, man. It didn't make no doggone.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would go from the church with Tommy and then go by Bailey Cathedral and Matty Moss Clark and having this midnight musical.
Right.
Man, oh man, and I just love I want to shout out Twinkie and Karen and Dorinda and Jackie and Niecy and Kiki and Jay Drew because man, there's so many memories of working with those girls and the stuff I learned from their mom and Tommy and Tommy introduced me to Marvin Winans and then it was just the whole thing was just a blessing, man. Just being in Detroit around that time, it was just electrifying. And everything for me in gospel started through Whitfield.
Right.
He was like the big brother for everybody in Detroit. Like you could go to his house and it'd be musicians just hanging around outside, walking around the corner. And they just, even people like from different states, from Texas and New York and Atlanta, they would just come up here to sit up under him, and we would do listen to the Hawkins records. Me, Dana, Tommy, and Rudolph Stansfield. And Eric Bryce, we would sit in the basement and just listen to y'all, man. And I just, man, you influenced so much of the musicians here in Detroit, brother.
Yeah.
And Steve too, with Thompson. Steve Huff and the Thompson Community Choir. Yes, sir.
DeAndre Thomas told me that because I tuned down and he heard that low A on his song With My Whole Heart on that Seminar album. He said he had bass players in Detroit tuning down one string.
Just that one.
He didn't realize that I tuned the whole bass down, but he had DeAndre say he was playing with Tommy and he had to tune his low B down to an A. But
yeah, man, you started some stuff out here, brother, man. We love you out here, man. And Steve Huff, man, but Huff was just so melodic and his tone was just so rich.
Yeah, man.
You know, we would come to Chicago sometimes with Whitfield Company, man, and we was on a same program with Milton Bronson, man, and that rhythm section was so tight.
Yeah, y'all Negroes was tight, Doc. Now, Reggie Young, you know, Reggie, I was blessed to show up in New York that time when y'all was doing the 30th anniversary thing. And I got there just in time to see you play Lift Him Up.
Woo!
And that thing you play on the break, that do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And I was like, I'm gonna go in here and steal this, even though I didn't get it.
Yep.
And don't feel, and I had to learn this, to not feel guilty about what God gave me, you know. And
Wow.
I can't help that I play the way I play. That's what I do, man. And I went through times where I was very self-conscious about it because people perceived me as trying to show off and be arrogant and all that kind of stuff. And I was not doing that. I was just doing what the Lord gave me to do, you know. And all of you guys on here, man, you got something that God gave you, man, and he didn't give it to nobody else. And you do you. That's what I tell people all the time. Do you.
Man.
Don't worry about what nobody else is doing, man. It's not a competition. It's like you just do what God gave you to do, man.
Right.
And don't get caught up on if everybody gonna like you, because everybody ain't gonna like you. I don't care who you are. There's gonna be somebody that's gonna be determined to not like what you're doing. So you get caught up in that, man. It's like, and we'll all be all right, man. And this world is big enough for all of us to do what we do, you know?
Yeah, that's right, Andrew.
Ain't about no competition, none of that, man. I toured for 20 years from 77 to 97. And I stopped in 97 because I was doing a gig that I hate because I need the money. And there's no worse feeling than that, because what we do is so personal and we do it from our hearts. And I quit the gig. I was like, I didn't start playing music to feel like this. And I quit.
Wow.
And not that I seek recognition, but it's nice to know that there's an appreciation for things that I've done, you know. And it's very humbling too. Like I said before, I realized a long time ago that it didn't have to be me, you know. And just to think that something I did or said was inspirational to somebody, that means everything to me. And so I'm just happy to be a part of this, man. It just it's very, very cool. It's amazing how technology works now, man. You know, it's like we can still be in touch, you know, and that matters too, man. Interaction, like we need that too, you know, because like I'm in here working. My wife and kids are home, but I'm down here in my studio like from sun up to sundown, way late into the night, you know, and just to like see some of my boys and say what's up, man. It's like cool, you know. Reggie, thank you, man. God bless you. Anyway, I'm gonna go see what my wife and kids are doing, man. So God bless you guys, man. Henri, good to see you, man. Everybody, man. Man, when I was coming up, they didn't even want bass in church. They used to tell me, "You don't need no bass. Organ player can play bass on the pedals." But it ain't like that no more.